relationship with that divine element within.
I know people are, one of the challenges with having chat open, and I know that from many programs, is if I keep it open, it does disturb some people because it keeps popping up when they're trying to concentrate. So I believe you can turn off your chat. If you're being bothered by chat, you can turn it off. But for this particular program, I left it on so people can share their thoughts as we go and share their questions. So I apologize, but that's how this particular program is running. Okay. That being said, we do have people's notes. I don't know if you've had a chance to look at them.
Yeah, I see one. Let me respond to one from a friend I know from many years ago, Neil Eisenberg. Is there something to be said about a relatively recent understanding that there are countless galaxies, each with a black hole? Yeah, there's so many interesting parallels between cosmology and Kabbalah. I think it's important to respect each field on its own and not to totally synthesize the two, not to have one melt totally into the other, but there's some fascinating parallels. And black holes were only discovered, within the last century. But now it turns out that there are most likely black holes within every sizable galaxy. There's certainly one right at the heart of the Milky Way galaxy. And the parallel here in Kabbalah is that the ultimate level of divinity is called nothingness. Right? It's nothingness, but it's a creative nothingness. As cosmology speaks of creative vacuum, the world came into being out of the primordial vacuum, according to cosmology. And Kabbalah says that God emerged out of nothingness. Now, this nothingness is not a total blank, just as the vacuum in science is not totally empty. There are virtual particles there. In Kabbalah, this no-thingness or nothingness is a creative, chaotic source within God, out of which everything exists. So there's a bit of a parallel there. Someone mentioned inflation, and that the current popular theory of inflation, that the universe expanded at a tremendous rate at the very first microseconds. That is certainly true, but the theory of inflation also then involves gravity at the next stage. Without gravity, without the energy slowing down, without the energy beginning to take shape, nothing exists. So that, I think, is parallel to the revealing and the concealing.
I do want to say that Marcy had a note tying the light into after Moshe meets with God and comes down from Mount Sinai, and he has the light emanating from his face.
Yes, that's fascinating. So Moses encounters God directly, and even that encounter is too much for the people to bear. Moses can't come down with his face fully radiant. That would be destructive to the people. So he has to cover his face with a veil. So the divine light that's shining out of Moses has to be veiled so that it not be harmful to the people. Yes. Yeah, could the Kabbalah understanding the concealment, the revelation of the light compared to the fact that observable matter reveals the existence of dark matter? Right, you have cosmologists speak now about dark matter and dark energy. Dark matter is something that we cannot measure exactly. We don't really know exactly what it is, but we see its effect. We see its effect in how it's increasing the speed of stars whirling around the center of galaxies. So the dark matter is interesting. Dark energy is maybe even more interesting. Dark energy is also something that is indescribable and very mysterious. But according to cosmology, dark energy is what is causing the universe to keep expanding, right? That initial expansion was slowed down, but now the expansion seems to be increasing, and that's fueled by what's called dark energy. And there's a parallel in the Zohar. The Zohar speaks of a spark of darkness, Botsina de Kardinuta. That spark of darkness is what stimulates the divine process of flowing, of emanating.
Another question that's come up by a few people is the concept of Tzimtzum, God contracting. Is that tied into this concept you're talking about, light?
Yeah, Tzimtzum is very interesting. We've been looking at the Zohar and the commentaries on the Zohar. Tzimtzum has its roots in early Kabbalah, but the way it's usually referred to is